Before I start, I want to promote our upcoming series Opinionated, which dives into some controversial topics, looks at both sides, and sees what our viewers think about the topics. To do this, we need to know what you think. Complete the Opinionated survey and find out more about the series at tldrnews.co.uk/opinionated. And also, some people who complete the survey will win some Opinionated merch, and everyone who completes it will get a discount code for the store. Brexit is looming, and as the days tick down, it's looking more and more like Theresa May's government aren't exactly in control of Brexit. In fact, Theresa May isn't exactly in control of her own party, but that's an issue for another video. As such, people are starting to look elsewhere for guidance and vision surrounding Brexit, and the obvious place to look is the UK's largest opposition party, Labour. People are intensely interested in what Labour has planned for Brexit and how they would handle the situation if they were in power. This curiosity isn't rooted in pure speculation or hypothetical interest. Labour's views on Brexit really do matter. Remember that Theresa May doesn't have a majority in Parliament. She can't just rely on Conservative MPs backing to get the deal through. She needs to persuade other people from other parties to back her deal, and Labour has a lot of other people who could support her, 257 to be precise. Although Conservative and Labour MPs don't necessarily see eye to eye on all issues, it would be a crazy strategy to write off all Labour MPs, as after all, with the right deal, she could convince some of them to back her deal. Sure, she's unlikely to convince all of them, but she doesn't need all of them. If she could get all of her own party's approval, big if there, then she'd only need 9 more votes to pass her deal. So it's important for her to consider what Labour as a party and what their actual MPs want out of Brexit, because if she can work that into her plan, she might be able to rely on them for support. Also, don't forget that Labour could be in power sooner than you think. In fact, even before the UK ends up leaving the EU. There are a variety of scenarios which could lead to a general election being held in the coming months. And if the EU agreed to delay the Brexit deadline until after the election, it's possible that you could see Labour taking the driving seat. In fact, the latest results from YouGov show that 39% of people would vote for Labour in a general election if it were called today. This is compared to the Conservatives' 41% support, showing how close things would be, and that Labour would have a real chance in a snap election. If you want to know more about who would win a general election today, and which issues voters care most about, check out the article available exclusively on our website, tldrnews.co.uk/today. Okay, so enough about why Labour is important. What do they actually want? What would a Labour government do about Brexit if they were in power? Well, Labour aren't happy with what the Conservatives have come up with, because it doesn't meet their standards for a Brexit deal. Labour have 6 tests which it applies to the potential deals to see if they meet their requirements. These tests are: 1. Does it ensure a strong and collaborative future relationship with the EU? 2. Does it deliver the exact same benefits as we currently have as members of the Single Market and Customs Union? 3. Does it ensure the fair management of migration in the interests of the economy and communities? 4. Does it defend rights and protections and prevent a race to the bottom? 5. Does it protect national security and our capability to tackle cross-border crime? 6. Does it deliver for all regions and nations of the UK? Labour applied these tests to May's deal and published a report on their findings. You'll be in no way surprised to hear that May's deal failed their tests. In fact, Labour said that it failed every single test. This isn't surprising because Labour were the ones who put the tests in place. They're difficult to pass by design. In fact, many say that it's almost impossible to imagine a deal that will pass all of these tests. This might seem unfair. How can Labour expect the government's plan to pass a series of almost impossible tests? Well, Labour is keen to emphasise that in many ways the government set these tests for themselves. Labour say that they based all of them on the commitments the government have made about the deal. They say that they're not setting the virtually impossible targets, they're just holding the government to their virtually impossible promises. As all the tests were designed to keep the Conservatives to account, it's possible that a deal reached by Labour wouldn't meet all of them. After all, why would Labour want or even need to keep to the promises made by the Conservatives? That being said, it's likely that Labour would want to forge a deal which kept to most of these tests. Who doesn't want a strong and collaborative future relationship with the EU? Why wouldn't Labour want to protect communities, immigrants, rights, protections, keep the nation safe, and tackle cross-border crime. The thing is, everyone can agree to most of these principles. The problem is actually achieving them. Take Test 2. Does it deliver the exact same benefits we currently have as members of the single market and customs union? Some pro-Brexit voters might not want this, but most Brits would agree that they want to see the UK retaining the benefits of EU membership. The problem is actually reaching a deal with the EU to secure these benefits. The EU isn't likely to let the UK walk away retaining all of the benefits of membership. In a statement on their website, Labour proposed that the UK could remain in the EU customs union, and by doing that, retain many of the benefits of EU membership. They said, Labour would seek to negotiate a new comprehensive UK-EU customs union to ensure that there are no tariffs with Europe, and help avoid any need for a hard border in Northern Ireland. Such an agreement would need to ensure that the UK would have appropriate say on any new trade deal terms. This would likely be popular with some, as it keeps the UK close to the EU in terms of trade. It means that there will continue to be no tariffs in place between the UK and EU, and goods still wouldn't need to go through customs checks at the borders. However, those hoping for a harder Brexit might be against staying in the customs union, which would prevent the UK from being able to strike their own trade deals. Labour have put a lot of emphasis on protecting the right to live and work in the UK and EU. In their manifesto on Brexit, they say a Labour government will immediately guarantee existing rights for all EU nationals living in Britain and secure reciprocal rights for all UK citizens who have chosen to make their lives in EU countries. EU nationals do not just contribute to our society, they are part of our society, and they should not be used as bargaining chips. Labour also say they want to ensure that the UK maintains our leading research role by seeking to stay part of Horizon 2020 and its successor programmes, and by welcoming research staff to the UK. Labour also claim that some pro-Brexit members of the Conservative Party support Brexit because without EU regulations, they will be able to roll back certain protections. As such, Labour say that a Labour government will never consider these rights a burden or accept the weakening of workers' rights, consumer protection, or environmental protections. Labour have also made their position clear on the issues surrounding borders, saying that they will ensure there is no return to a hard border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, and that there's no change in the status or sovereignty of Gibraltar. So, does Labour actually have a solid plan? Well, not really. You can find their full manifesto for Brexit on our website, and that shows their positions, but it's not a full Brexit plan that could actually be put to the EU. And to be fair to them, it's not their job to create a full plan. They don't have the same resources and access as the governing party. Labour make nice promises on their website. We will end Theresa May's reckless approach to Brexit and seek to unite the country around a Brexit deal which works for every community in Britain. But honestly, most of the positions on their website don't seem to have very much actual policy or plans behind them. The main message from Labour so far is that they want to stay close to the EU. The question is, how close? Well, it's possible that Labour could actually lead to the UK cancelling Brexit altogether. There have been many people, both inside and outside of the Labour Party, calling for Labour to seek a second referendum. In fact, a recent poll found that 72% of Labour members would like to see Corbyn promise to support a second referendum on Brexit, while another 18% oppose the idea. Of those Labour supporters, 88% say that they'd vote for the UK to remain in the EU in a second referendum. So a second referendum is generally popular with Labour supporters, and being able to brand themselves as the Remain Party could be popular at an election. Remember, a lot of people are still pro-EU. Over 16 million people voted to remain in the referendum. Because of this, you might assume that Labour would happily take the position of the official Remain Party, or at least support a second referendum. Well, Labour as a party is semi-accepting of a second referendum, with the party's official policy being that they would consider a second referendum if an election isn't called. But that doesn't mean that everyone's on board. Labour's leader, Jeremy Corbyn, isn't exactly sold on the idea. He said that if Labour were to get power, they wouldn't hold a second referendum, and they would simply return to the EU and try and get a better Brexit deal. It's because of this that Corbyn has been facing a lot of pressure from his party to support a second referendum, with pro-EU groups within the party, like Another Europe is Possible, pushing for him to guarantee a second referendum if Labour get into power. This is a big movement of people. About a third of Labour members say that they disagree with the party's official Brexit policies, and over half of those people say that it's an issue which could cause them to leave the party. This is a big deal to Labour supporters, and it could have a major impact on the party's future electoral success. It's not only Labour supporters who are in favour of a second referendum. Many Labour MPs, even the current Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, is in favour of a second vote. It could be a good move to support a second referendum, given that 73% of Labour supporters and 89% of Labour Party members think that the decision to leave the EU was a mistake. Whether Corbyn will be convinced is still yet to be seen, but it's possible that in the future a second referendum could be added to Labour's list of Brexit wishes. We're interested to know if you support a second referendum. Let us know what you think about being given the chance to vote again in our opinionated survey. It's one of the topics we're looking to tackle in the new series, so your feedback would be invaluable. You can find the full survey at tldrnews.co.uk/opinionated. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe and follow us across Instagram, Facebook and Twitter for more exclusive content.